Evelyn, I think we can start with the roll call.
Trustee Lee,
Here.
Trustee King,
Here.
Trustee Marcus,
Here.
Vice President Weekly,
Present.
President Wells.
Here. All right, good evening and welcome to the December 10th, 2025 meeting of the Redwood City School Board. Buenas noches. Si requiere interpretación al español, por favor llama al 978-990-5137 y presione 8377041 y el signo de número. Si asiste a la reunión en persona, solicita un transmisor situado al fondo de la sala. All right, thank you for joining us tonight. We're all partners in education, and the board encourages everyone to participate and provide comments on issues of concern, regardless of whether they're on the agenda. To speak, please complete a speaker's card and hand it to Evelyn. You can find them at the entrance to the room. If you're attending on Zoom, please complete a speaker's card online by following the link in the agenda, or just raise your Zoom hand when the item comes up. If you're addressing a subject on the agenda, you'll be called at the time that the item is being considered. And if the issue is not on the agenda, you'll be called shortly during the oral communications agenda item. And then to be fair to all speakers, we limit public comments to 3 minutes per person per topic unless otherwise noted. All right, we are on to changes to the agenda. Does anyone have any changes they would like to propose? Trustee Marquez.
I'd like to pull item 8.3.
8.3, and that was our, that was Measure U for Taft, right? 8.3. Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. We are on to the public comment section. I see none submitted online, none on Zoom, and we have no speakers cards. So we will move on to our next item, which is going to be our first of two school and community reports. This is 6.1. It's the presentation on Redwood City TK program. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And then your microphone has a little on button. It kind of looks like a person with like little circles coming out of their mouth.
There we go.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'd like to introduce Jennifer Mercado
Good evening.
from Adelante, Spanish immersion, and I'm Ann Barriafa. I am currently facilitating the TK program for the district. Good evening, everybody. Tonight, I'm honored and quite proud to present the transitional TK program in the Redwood City School District. And then I guess I'm running this. Hold on, sorry. On and Anna. You said it worked.
Press,
This one?
press arrow.
I'm going to try and do this fast too. Well, I'll read the next slide while we're waiting. So this presentation will focus on our program's growth, cohesion, and continuing success. Great. Next slide. This slide illuminates our rapid growth over the past several years, going from 6 TKs 4 years ago to 19 this year. Going from 6 to 19 TK classrooms in 4 short years has been a challenge, as you can imagine. But we have been up for the challenge. Oh, next slide. That's my turn. Here, maybe you could do the slides. Oh, I went the wrong way. Sorry. There we go. So this is just a little visual of what we start out with at the beginning of the year. We literally have to build furniture and unpack boxes when teachers have moved or moved from a grade level down to TK. And this, of course, is for every classroom, not just TK. And we can go to the next slide.
Sure.
And then, oh yeah, I got to point it at Anna's.
Oh,
Yeah. Oops, back one, sorry. There we go. Tricky. Okay,
There we go.
so yes, in a few short days in August, when we're preparing to have the students come, this is what transpires in the classroom. So I think it's just amazing. Okay. So here is where we stand today. It's our current status. As I said, the district currently has 19 TKs, 2 of which are specialized learning centers, one at Henry Ford and one at Roosevelt. And we serve approximately 360 4 and 5-year-olds. Next slide. So the overarching goals for TK, in a nutshell, we want to create a joyful, culturally affirming, and language-rich classrooms. We believe that when we align instruction with how children learn best, everyone benefits, students, teachers, and the district as a whole. What makes our TK program exemplary? Transitional kindergarten is not kindergarten light. It is the first year of a 2-year learning continuum designed specifically for 4-year-olds and grounded in developmentally appropriate practice. Our program emphasizes play-based learning. You can go to the next slide. Sorry. Play-based learning, language development and social emotional growth, early literacy and numeracy embedded in exploration, and strong classroom routines that build independence and confidence. So the play-based program is not just play overall. The state recommends 75% of the day should be uninterrupted play, but in sections, of course, not all at once. But the play is broken up into 3 categories: child self-determined play, adult-child collaborative play, and adult planned directed play. Slide. So we have developed a well-rounded TK program that encompasses all areas and modalities of learning, which is the balanced program you see here. Since the new standards came out only a couple of years ago, we are still in the process of adapting and integrating them into our curriculum. This has been difficult, or I'm sorry, it hasn't been difficult, as we had already been using the pre-K learning foundations along with the kindergarten standards to find what fits best in our classrooms, as our students have gone from a little bit older to now younger students as they start. For handwriting and letter formation, we use Learning Without Tears. For our literacy program, which includes oral language, phonics, etc., we use the Seeds of Language program. And for phonemic awareness, we use Haggerty along it's the beginning stages of the Haggerty that our kinder and above use. We also implement integrated unit, which incorporates science and social studies standards in addition to the language arts and math standards. For math, we have chosen to use the San Francisco Unified School District TK Math Portal, which is a fully fleshed out program that has specific units that are for TK. We have not found anything that is in alignment with the district adopted curriculum yet, as they're still developing TK because it's such a new program. And additionally, at many sites,
Pardon.
thank you. I'm so glad you're here. At many of our sites, we also offer library visits, gardening, makerspace, and other outdoor activities. We're trying more and more to incorporate outdoor centers to get the children outside and moving in the fresh air as much as possible. So across the district, our teachers provide a consistent program, yet each brings her own creative interests and passions to the classroom. We have created a TK must-do form that is for the TK teachers, by the TK teachers, for the TK teachers, that illuminates what we expect in the classroom across the district. The next slide is an example of what we would want to see in a developmentally appropriate learning environment. It should, at minimal, have a large group area, small group area where the teacher can pull small groups for instruction. It doesn't have to be a rainbow table. It can be any setting. It can be on the floor. A dramatic play area, blocks and building area, a library or quiet space, a calm down corner, and then science and math exploration and blocks and whatnot. So finding qualified teachers has been a challenge. Not only do we, not only do the teachers need to have a joy for teaching this age group, they also have to have a California teaching credential and 24 early childhood education units, which equals out to about a year and a half of extra education. Fortunately, we've had some innovative staffing solutions that the board has helped us pioneer along with HR and Anna. And these are that we can hire teachers who have 12 units of experience as long as they have adequate in-classroom experience with children 4 to 5 years old. We have also used the Early Education Trainers Development Grant from the county to help some of our teachers that we scalped, I guess for lack of a better word, from pre-K. We had several teachers come up into our program, and we're helping them get their credential. And in turn, they've made a commitment to the district to stay here for a certain length of time. So meet our team. Our TK program has been built thoughtfully and intentionally through the dedication of the 19 teachers and more than 20 instructional assistants who together form the backbone of our TK classrooms across the district. Their commitment, creativity, and deep understanding of early childhood development make this program what it is today. So where the teachers are the backbone, our PLCs are the heart of the success of our program. We meet at least monthly, either in person or online, to discuss pedagogy, data, and do planning together. We attend various conferences and external PD opportunities, and we bring that information back to one another and share. And it helps us also to create teacher leaders, which Jennifer is one of. So in doing this, we've created teacher leaders who often run the PLCs and the trainings for us. So moving on to data. Next slide. Thank you. So we believe that data is a flashlight, not a hammer. And we feel like it should never be a gotcha. It should always be the light that illuminates the path to student growth and acceleration. The following slides show the academic growth for TK that we've been garnering for quite a while. But what I want to point out is that it doesn't show the soft skills that TK students learn in the classroom, such as self-regulation, social-emotional lessons, and those kind of things that are hard to display on a graph. So here we have capital letters. You can just see from the bars that they come in with a lot less than what they leave with at the end of the school year. And we have only a couple years of data on this. And unfortunately, we didn't have the data from our fall. These numbers here show our beginning of the year, and we also now have fall data. So the green has increased and the red has decreased in almost all the slides. So the next one is lowercase letters. You can see each year we've had increases. And you might see, I'm just going to notice a decrease from 2023 to 2024. And I just want to point out that the children are getting younger and younger each of these years that they come. Okay. And then, of course, we have sounds, right? So I want to just point especially to 2024-25, where 89% of our students were at grade level or above in knowing the amount of sounds that they're supposed to know at the end of TK. I know, right? TK, to be at grade level, they need to know 15 letters and sounds, approximately, give or take. And most of our students who are in the green know almost all of their letters and sounds. So they have a very big head start. And many of them are beginning reading. Even now, we have readers in some of the classrooms. Math, they are expected by the end of the year to count to 30 without interruptions. And this also we've seen growth. And also one-to-one correspondence, which is a little bit more difficult for students, but they are also increasing in that. And recognizing numbers and recognizing shapes. Okay, so as you can see, we've accomplished a great deal in the last 4 years. Our challenges have been many, but we feel like we have overcome them, and we are continuing to assess other challenges that keep arising, such as hiring, new and qualified teachers as our program grows. I want to point out that I know TK is expensive, but I want to point out that it is an investment. Smaller class sizes, instructional assistants, materials, and training all carry a cost. However, TK is not a short-term expense. It is a long-term investment in the district's success. Decades of research confirm what we see every day, that students who attend high-quality early learning programs enter kindergarten more confident. They require fewer academic behavioral interventions, yes, show stronger literacy and math foundations, and finally experience greater long-term academic success. So we do have some ongoing needs on the next slide. Ongoing needs will be, of course, training for teachers, new teachers as they come, so that they can catch up with the programs that our current teachers are doing. And we're finding that having in-house teachers such as Jennifer and many of our other teachers, who I know are out there, so I want to say hi to everybody, are helping us with this so that we don't have to have the expense of trainers coming in. We need to train our instructional assistants, not only in the toileting, which is becoming an increasingly added duty to our plates, but also we want to train them in many of the strategies that the teachers are learning, because they are the second teacher in the classroom. For facilities, we're in pretty good shape. There are a few places where we could use some more developmentally appropriate heights of sinks. As you can see, there's a step stool there, and knock on wood, nobody's fallen, but it would be nice to have something a little bit more permanent and stable. There is going to be a need for new rest mats. We've had these rest mats for 5 years now, and they are starting to fall apart. There are a couple other things that Martin is fully aware of. And the funding, we've been very fortunate to have a UPK grant from the state, but that is now at the end of its funding cycle. And so now it is going to be on the district and the school sites to carry this through. So we've done our best to order materials, furniture, and all the things that we need to carry us through for hopefully the unforeseen future. Yeah. Okay. So, on behalf of the Redwood City TK program, I would like to thank, first of all, the district leadership, which is you all, Dr. Baker, former Assistant Superintendent Liz Wolf, who started this foresight of knowing that the TK, what was coming down the pike from the state, and Ana Herrera, who has helped lead the way the last couple of years with this, and she knows to the heart what it takes for this TK program to thrive, and I really appreciate her support and help in this. I'd like to thank facilities, Martin and his crew, who I know you guys are tired of hearing from me, but they have been very attentive to the needs of our classrooms and understand that for 4-year-olds, we have to be very diligent about safety issues. And then, of course, I'd like to thank Wendy and her crew in HR for helping us fill these positions and for helping us get subs when we need it, because it's been a little bit more challenging than we expected, especially with 19. We currently have a roving instructional assistant, Yadel, who goes from site to site as needed, but over the last couple months, we've had a lot of people out ill, and we've had to use the resources that the district has through the swing subs. And then finally, I would like to thank our amazing teachers, because, well, I'm just constantly amazed. I go into their classroom and I'm just blown away at their energy, what they do, what they create, and their resourcefulness, their camaraderie with one another, how they help each other, their compassion, and the dedication that they bring to their craft. So thank you all.
Wow.
Question?
And we also want to thank Anne, who's been leading this team for the last couple of years. We know her team.
Thank you.
We'll see if she continues with us this year. We're hoping. And I know she's also looking forward to
On
retirement.
34 years.
I know. So we appreciate all your work, and just, I don't want to say that it is a lot of our TKs. Hats off to you for all your dedication.
Thank you.
To
I
the
appreciate
district.
that. In 34 years, I have to say, I've done a lot of different positions and I've enjoyed all of them. But I think this has been the most rewarding for me to see a program blossom and grow and to work with amazing teachers that I wouldn't have had the chance to. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Anna
Thank
and Jen,
you.
for thanks for presenting all about the TK program. I know that reviewing the slides over the weekend was a lot of fun, just because you can see the joy that's in there, and the deep links had a lot of information in there. Before we jump into board discussion, we do have one public comment on this, so I'm going to call Augustine Espino to come up and make your comments. As a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, come on up. The microphone's on.
Okay. Good evening, the board members. Some of you already know me. My name is Agustin Espino. I'm a parent. I have my kid, my daughter over there, Kennedy. And then I noticed that today we're going to be talking about TK. So I meet with some of the parents of the Redwood City School District, and then this is really nice. We want to encourage the district to continue this program, and then if it's possible, to expand the outreach to our Latino community by advertising on a local clinic if it's possible, uh, put it signs on the libraries, and possible on the bus stops of the city, because a lot of the families use that transportation so that they can see what it is, and so that they can better understand, because a lot of our community don't, some, not all, but some don't fully understand how important it is to start early enough. So we need to expose them, to tell them there is a benefit to start early. And then I I really want to do that, to flourish and see the gap. I've been talking about a lot about the gap. It's not an easy task. It requires a lot of commitment, everyone. And then so I care about that, and that's why I'm here over here asking you guys to please look at if it's possible to do that outreach, and then see if we can change this trend to close that gap, education gap. Um, I went last Friday to Hoover, which is a heavily Hispanic school, and I talked to some parents, and then they had the same dream that when I came over here to this country, that when we came in this country, we think like, hey, you are in the U.S. and everything should be fine and everything's gonna be flourish. And then I learned a little late that we need to advocate, and so that's why I was talking to some of the parents. But they seems like everything is fine. I talked to them and say, hey, how is your kids doing? All the parents that I taught, there were not many, but the ones that I taught, the kids were fantastic, they say. And then I wondering if they are like in the case of my sister, that she don't even know how to look the report card where how my nephew is doing. So, but hopefully with the TK, hopefully we can be able to change that trend. And then I definitely want to encourage to see if we can all work together and make a difference. Thank you.
Thanks, Augustine. You raised some good points. I actually want to just follow up with Dr. Baker. Do we do advertisement for TK? Like, what kind of outreach are we doing to let people know about it?
So there's outreach at the school sites,
At the school sites. Okay.
specifically, but what Augustine is talking about, we used to do previously for preschool.
Sure.
We could start that again, and we also used to do, ¿cuál es el canal? Channel what? 14. It was probably 14. We used to add, they used to take the advertisements for us for free, so we can check and see if they can do that again. But we did this previously with the preschool, and there's no reason why we can't go back. And the libraries, we did it at the libraries, we did it at the clinics, we also did it at the dentist's office and
Yeah.
so forth. And we also put it out at the hospitals. So we on their bulletin board. So we can continue, not continue, but we could start again and do that. So
Yeah,
there's
I mean,
no
it's
problem with that.
interesting. I mean, I understand it's an expensive program. Anne touched on it, but I think Anne and Augustine are both talking about how it's kind of like literacy math preventative, like it's ensuring that there's no crisis later on when they run into a problem and sort of getting them up on the right foot. So it does seem like a good investment.
Because I think if you were to talk to the kindergarten teachers now that these students are coming to kindergarten, like they have expressed to myself, they are doing so much better than those students who have not had TK or pre-K. It's just a whole change
Yeah, I bet.
and what they're expecting. And as you said, you have some kids right now that are starting to read. That's fantastic. And so, yeah, it's we can do that. We can definitely start doing that again. It's not for ourselves, it's not that expensive to do. We just go around and we put them up, put,
Yeah.
those pincushions and go
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
They're there and no one ever says anything. And also some of the restaurants used to take them also for us, especially the ones on Middlefield Road.
Okay, I'm going to turn to the board and if anyone wants to start with discussion, comments, or questions for Ann and Jen. I see David Lee looking anxious to jump in, so I'm going to call on him so that we don't do that. Let's stare at everybody for a minute before we decide who's going to start.
That is just my face, but that's fine. Um, I've already put these questions out there, so none should be surprises. But first and foremost, I think thank you for the presentation and obviously for the work. It says it every time, but it's really helpful. I'll be very candid. The whole TK realm is outside of my wheelhouse completely. So like seeing the pictures, seeing what it takes, like the before and after is really, really helpful. And I know we touched a little bit on the funding piece, and I think it's worth also stating that my understanding is that as a basic aid district, like we are disadvantaged compared to others. Like it is effectively an unfunded mandate. So I'm just incredibly impressed by the work that we do, given that we are not currently supported by the state in the same way that others are.
Right.
So I'll just put that out there.
Yeah.
The two, I guess, 2 points, one kind of comment and then one kind of question or set of questions. The one comment is just on the slide that you put up there and the commentary that went with it, which is that data is a flashlight, not a
Yeah.
hammer. And I just very much fully endorse it. I love that idea, right? Like data doesn't tell us anything by itself. Like
Right.
we have to understand it, read it, interpret it, and that's going to lead to the next step.
That's right.
But seeing the numbers is not it's not enough by
Right.
itself.
Right.
So I really appreciated the context and the takeaways that you brought on the slides. And this isn't a comment to you, but I think in general, especially as I think we move toward presentations where we're trying to condense things and make it super efficient, I think it'd be helpful to try to get like the takeaways from the district on the slides of what did you see from the data?
Right. What's the
And-
story?
Exactly. I think part of that honestly is just because to be completely honest, like this is not my wheelhouse. Like I don't know. I'm not an expert on what the numbers are telling me. And I'm not there in the day to day, but what I really care about is what are the people who are on the ground, what are they taking away from it? And like what does that mean for next steps? So I got that loud and clear from the voiceover, but I'll just put it out there.
Thank you.
The questions are more focused on the challenges and the
Mhm.
maintenance piece.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the budget. I think it's not a secret that we're in tight budget circumstances. But
Right.
I think it's also hopefully not a secret that TK is the first point where we can start addressing things so that in like third grade literacy doesn't happen in third grade, right? It's everything leads up to it. And so to me, and I think I won't speak for everyone else, but obviously very important, love to make sure that we're a robust program and would love to make sure that we're offering it equitably to all the communities. Like we should be targeted.
Yep.
With that said, I know there's discussion of a partial tax effort that has been at prior board meetings. Unhealthily, I've been on the internet and seeing just different questions that pop up about the
Mhm.
parcel tax and the effectiveness. I just specifically within the realm of TK, and it doesn't have to be right now. I think a question that's going to come up is what is the amount of money and what is it going toward
Mhm.
to make sure that we're being more effective? And even just based on the presentation, I know you have ideas. I know that the district has ideas.
Yeah.
If we could just make sure that we get those down somewhere so that once
Absolutely.
I just want there's a sense I get that there are members of the public who don't have full confidence yet
Right.
that all the money is going toward all the stuff that is, closing the achievement
Right.
gap and all that. And like, that's just not true. Like we know what we need to spend on. But anyway,
They need the flashlight.
exactly. And so I'll ask the question openly now, which is like,
Okay.
what are the things? And like, what does that look like in terms of money? Because that's what we think the funds are going to go to. But I've also obviously very much put you on the spot. So it doesn't have to be an exhaustive list, but even a sample, and then it's something else just to think about as we go forward of like that. I think that would be helpful.
Okay, yeah, Anna has some
I was
thoughts.
gonna say, I mean, we have invested a lot of money. We have received money to really fund all of the materials in classrooms, which is a large amount. I think that grant that we had was over 400,000. I don't even know, that's just when I started, so it must have been greater. We had like 600,000. It started
It
at
started, but
three,
they kept increasing it.
And
So
then they
ultimately, it was
increased.
about 600.
So just in materials alone that have gone to TK and these classrooms, you're looking at 600,000. Plus, no, for the
Just to
entire,
build it.
totally. Okay,
And-
so because building a classroom, we've never built just one classroom. We've had to build 4 classrooms every time we've done it. And so when we're ordering materials, we're ordering everything the same. So that is just in like furniture and making sure we have appropriate size tables, making sure we have the chairs, making sure that we have the appropriate size bookshelf. So all of that investment really goes to what we've been able to support. Martin has facilities has actually been able to support us on some of those furnitures as well.
That's
And
true.
so have our grants in our district. I mean, each classroom requires an adult, a teacher, and an aide. So you're talking about two salaries there that you have to maintain. Because the teachers, the aides, we have a ratio 20-1. So 20 to 2 adults. So we have to maintain that ratio. So we're looking at salaries, right? So you're looking at 2 salaries. Once the classrooms have all the materials, it's really what we have to maintain. Like, for example, the mats that we have where children rest and take a, not sleep. Some of them do fall asleep, but it's a resting time. Those do have to replace because they only have a certain year span, right? So we have to look at purchasing new ones. And
How
if we pur-
expensive are mats?
you know what, it
It's
depends
about $500 per
per
classroom.
classroom.
So for new mats.
Yeah. So we're talking about, our older classrooms versus our newer classrooms, right? So, and we do know that we've been looking at, and I talked a lot about like those mats, like do we invest in Lakeshore, which is a little bit more expensive, but they also we have a little bit more of a guarantee. So you
They
have to
last
balance
5
it out.
years.
So I think when you look about what the cost is, you're really looking at that and training. So we have been very fortunate. Our county has had a lot of training for pre-K in the district. So we've been able to send our teachers to some of those trainings. Anne has attended multiple trainings. The teachers have attended. We've been able to invest in certain trainings that are more appropriate for our staff. And I think, when we look at ongoing, if we continue to have teachers who leave, we just have to continue onboarding people. So there's just, costs that we would add to any district, any PD.
So if you don't mind me clarifying your question, are you looking at what it costs per classroom to run it? Is that your question?
That could be one way to think. In like the big picture in my head is I want to be able to go down the street and say, when someone comes to me and says, we're not using, this district doesn't need more money, period. I want to be able to say, that's actually not correct.
Okay.
Because here's what we're doing, and here's what we can't do anymore because we're losing a grant,
Right.
and here's what it's going to take.
Right. Okay, I can help with that list.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Jennifer. I actually want to personally thank you. My son was in one of those 2022 TK classrooms.
Wonderful. Oh,
So shout out to Gong Lao Shi. She's
you know. Perfect.
but I following up to Augustine's comment about the outreach, the other thing I've actually heard from some principals and parents are they just don't even know what putting their child into a classroom looks like.
Right.
And so they were looking for even more of just a video online or a tour or like knowing that there's a bathroom in the room, right? Like what does a table look like? I don't know if we can even
So
go.
actually, we are right now working on that. We've been asked by the county because they're familiar with our classrooms and know what great classrooms we have, that they've asked if they can actually film a little video just for that purpose.
Great.
So I got approval from Jorge and John, and so I'm grateful.
Oh,
So yeah,
perfect.
so that's coming.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that will encourage more parents.
And then
to
we also
hopefully-
do orientations in the spring. Usually in May or June, they do TK and K orientations. So parents who have already registered will be invited to those. So where we have slide decks, and then those get sent out so you can see what each classroom's different. So we can't just have it necessarily a generic one. So it depends upon the sites.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree with all the comments today. The more kids we can get into TK, I think will just be great for the district. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you guys for the presentation. And of course, I want to just say thank you to everyone that has at one point engaged and stepped up to teaching TK, including those preschool teachers that
Yes.
moved up. And obviously
Thank you.
thankful to the district for allowing that to happen and working with those teachers to work on their teaching credential, because I think that's great. Building our own and making sure that those students thrive in the future. I think it's very important that we build the strong foundation, like you've mentioned. Obviously, this is to get them ready, not just for primary school, middle school, but beyond. So my daughter is a kindergarten teacher and has
Oh.
said it makes such a big difference of those kids coming in from TK with TK experience. And then I do want to say, I'm going to give a shout out to Ms. Mercado, because my daughter, who is Karina, she took her under her wing many years ago when she was a sub, and she didn't have, I think, like a TK partner because she was from another school, and she really showed her all the,
The ropes.
yes, the ropes. And so
Beautiful.
The pandemic.
during the
Oh,
pandemic,
right.
of course,
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
So I do want to tell you thank you, because sometimes you guys don't realize how much of a difference you guys are making until somebody actually makes it known. So I do
Yeah.
want to thank you.
Thank
So
you.
and just like you, I've said this before. One of the things that I do admire about the Redwood City School District is everyone, they work with grace. Very happy doing their jobs and always helping at their school sites. So I do really appreciate that. And of course, this goes out to the paraprofessionals that work with the teachers
Yes.
as well, because obviously they do a
Absolutely.
lot. So
Yes. All the workers at the sites, the custodians, the cafeteria workers, everybody. We couldn't do it without them, the office
sure.
staff.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Thank
thank you.
Thanks so much. Looks like the program is doing really well. It's been growing explosively, and the staff have been rising to the challenge. Getting to see some of those deltas is great, and it tees up well with the broader research about the impact of TK on kids who go through it.
Right.
And it feels like that's going to kind of shift us to a new regime where we're having to scramble, right, to go and build like all of the new classrooms every year and accommodate that interest. And as well as the expansion of the program to younger and younger ages. But that part's not going to continue, right? We're not going to be having 2-year-olds in TK or anything like
No.
that, right?
Nope, this is it.
Right. So, right.
Drawing the line.
Right. So we're drawing the line. Exactly. Exactly so. And that means that like a couple things are going to change, right? As the program goes from growth mode and like, let's keep up with this surge in demand as the TK definition expands, to you heard Augustine's comment, and it seemed like there was a lot of nods and grunts around the table to like active outreach to go and have the program be more equitably adopted would be really good. And then on a more macro basis, going and dealing with declining enrollment, right? And so how do we factor that in that we don't overshoot? Because the last couple of years we've been doing 4 new classrooms a year, and so we don't want to overshoot what's ultimately going to be a declining slope.
Right, absolutely. And we definitely have been keeping that in mind as well, and knowing that population will ebb and flow. And that the teachers are very qualified. They can work in other grade levels if needed. We don't want that. We want to maintain what we have because we worked hard for it. But that's always a possibility. we just have to roll with what comes.
That's awesome on the teachers. We have flexibility there. On the classrooms, it seems like the demands of a TK classroom, even versus a kindergarten classroom, involve a bit of material expenditure there. Yeah.
A little bit, but I think we're kind of plateauing on that because we've been, I mean, some consumables, of course, our little Learning Without Tears workbooks and those kind of things.
Sure.
But, and then, some materials have to be replaced over the years, but, teachers, we know they invest a lot of money in their own classrooms. And a lot of what we see in there are items that teachers have purchased themselves. So, depending on who's in the classroom, and I will always have more expenses, but I feel like the big nut of expenses has been taken care of. Unless we add 5 more, which we're not going to, right? Unless we need to at our other sites.
So if there's things that we need to do as a board to support this program, like bless the purchase of $500 mats that have served their purpose for 5 years, if there's things like helping to nudge outreach to the community, it sounds like we've got some muscle tissue that we had worked on with pre-K that maybe could now be revisited for TK. That sounds fabulous. I don't know what kind of cheerleading we can give as a board to formally say, like, yes, we think that's a really good idea. I tried reaching out to Samtrans after Augustin and I had a discussion to see, like, are they willing to go and post things for us on bus stops? So yeah, I mean, it's a collaboration. You built a great program, and I'd love for it to be in as many hands as possible.
Me too. Thank you. We'll work on that.
Thanks, Ann. I'm so glad you poured 34 years into this program. It's like all that experience to be able to deliver it. Yeah, I mean, just seeing this presentation and looking at the slides, it just sort of really illustrates what living the district's mission of, being joyful and rigorous and inclusive and nurturing program and putting that together. So thank you to you, the TK teachers, the TK aides, the facilities, HR, the district leadership here with us. It's just, it's obviously it's compliant and it follows the state guidelines, but it's really student centered, and it's so much more than that. And it just really first step to advancing our LCAP goals, for social emotional support and, academic learning. You can just see how it's really tied in. It's MTSS really at the earliest step.
Right. Absolutely.
I look forward, I bet in a future year, we're going to see, how these TK cohorts are doing and being able to track them through first, second, third grade and go in. We already have the initial evidence of how much more prepared they are coming into kindergarten, but I think, it'll be neat to see and track them over the next couple of years, how that longitudinal work is.
And I know Anna and Jenny are working on that. It's a way to do that. That's out of my wheelhouse.
Totally. Yeah, you're doing something excellent, so don't worry about it. Again, thanks. Yeah, Dr. Baker.
Thank you.
First of all, Anne, you've come a long way. So, do you remember back when?
Right? We go way back.
Way back. So thank you so much for everything that you've done and put your heart and soul into this program. I knew you were the right person to have when you took the responsibility to move it to where it is today. Because when the mandate came down, we were all kind of like wondering, what are we going to do? Especially when we found out that because we were community funded, our dollars were going to be a lot less. With that said, I also want to extend a grateful hand to Jennifer Mercado, born and raised Redwood City, Hoover School when I was the principal, and she was like this.
Yes, he was my principal.
It was great to see her in the classroom when she became a teacher. Matter of fact, when I became superintendent, I think went to your classroom. That's where I got my picture taken at Taft. At Taft. So thank you so much for sticking with Redwood City and being part of this adventure. You're reaping the wonders that you've put together yourself along with Anne here. And I was notified, that the county wants to do the video. And I said, well, make sure that you give credit where credit is due, because there was a lot of hard work that went into this. What you didn't show up there, I didn't see your husband putting together some of the furniture.
No, I was told I'm limited to slides. I have pictures of
Oh,
my
I did-
son and his girlfriend putting furniture together, my husband. So it was a team effort for sure. Family affair.
Right. But you've done an outstanding job, and thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you so
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank
Along
you.
with the teachers that are in the program, along with the
Well,
instructors.
and Jennifer, I have to just give another shout out to Jennifer. She is our longest longevity TK teacher.
Yep.
She was teaching TK before we even started this
Right.
trajectory. She was one of the
Yeah.
original 4 at Taft. Yep. And then she was moved to Adelante,
Yes.
right? Yeah, exactly. So thank God she and Heidi and a few others who have been around from the beginning have really helped me help them do their jobs and my job. So
Great job.
thank
Kudos.
you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And then, can I say something? really
Yes,
quick?
one more thing.
Since we're still on this topic, I just want to give a big shout out as well to Agustin and Miss Patty. She is part of the Superintendent Advisory Committee. The Spanish, she's a mother from Hoover, and she's here representing TK because she has a TKer. And of course, Agustin, excuse me? And it comes to, yes, come to the meetings. And of course, Agustin, thank you for your comment, because this is why we ask that you parents come here, because when we hear from you, there's change, right? If we don't know what is happening or there's ideas out there, sometimes we think we are doing the right thing, and we are, but there's more ideas that could come up. And so I really appreciate it. So thank you for your input.
Well said. Thank you for adding that in. And I, Augustine, of course, for being here. Let's move on to our next community school report. This is the review of the California Dashboard Report.
All right, thank you all. I will be beginning. Jenny, I know is online, so we've decided I will be doing most of the talking tonight. So tonight we are presenting the newly released California dashboard data for RCSD based on our state assessments that were administered in May. The dashboard serves as a key guide for LCAP each year, helping us identify which schools require additional support in English language arts and math, as well as determining which student subgroups and target interventions we need to add. This information directly informs our annual planning, including the development of our LCAP and the professional development priorities for the upcoming school year. Our CSD is currently identified for differentiated assistance in partnership with the County Office of Education for our students with disabilities, subgroups in 2 areas of chronic absenteeism and math, which are both red indicators. So this is some of the guiding work that will lead us today. So we're going to quickly just go over a snapshot of how we see it for the audience of Broadwood City. So when we look at our performance standards, the indicators are on color wheels from the state. They show us our wide measures in chronic absenteeism, suspensions, EL progress, and academics, both in ELA and math, as well as we have science indicators. We also have indicators in our school districts. We receive 1 out of the 5 colors. So as you can see, where our indicators are in yellow for chronic absenteeism, green for suspension, English learner progress, we are in yellow, and ELA and math, we're both in yellow. So those are great. Those are just our indicators. And then we also have our local indicators, which are on the next steps, which says standards met. These are local indicators that measure our progress, which we track locally. Usually these are local indicators that show how we have met. We do a survey at the end of the year with our LCAP to show us if we have met our district, our requirements for these areas. So for our RC, just so that you know, and when we think about last year's data and the year prior for 23-24, we were for chronic absenteeism, we were in yellow the year before as well. In suspensions and EL, we were in the green. So for our English learner progress, we moved down from green to yellow. And both for our academic and data language arts, we were in the orange. So in the year before. So just so that you guys have in context where we've moved. In terms, many of our slides just show how we compare to the state. So what this slide just shows that we declined by 0.8 and we are in the yellow, similar to the state. And I forgot to start, just letting the audience know that we've condensed the slides down. So we're only showing some specific slides that we will show tonight, but the full slide deck is on the website. And for our target absenteeism indicator, we have 4 subgroups that we need to look at. That is our African Americans, which have been for the last several years, we've had them on our target radar to really support. And we have our LTELs this year. We have Pacific Islanders, which we had 2 years in a row now, and now we've added our students with disabilities as well. So this is one of the indicators as to why we are looking at our students with disabilities this next year. In terms of our, just as a summary of all of the data that we have compiled, we are looking at some declining of chronic absenteeism. It is a challenge and has been a challenge in the last couple of years. Again, when we look at our data, we're looking at tracking over time, right? Our Pacific Islanders has been a subgroup that's been in the red for 2 consecutive years in this area. We are working, it's one of our smaller groups, but it is in red. Our African American students, our LTELs and students, again, all of these have been in red for several years, so we continue to have to monitor. We are making strides with some of them, but it takes a lot of work to put to address chronic absenteeism. We believe we really need to make a shift in how we address it, so much with parents as well as with all of our staff. And so we have seen a significant increase in chronic absenteeism. We had 1 school with significant increase in chronic absenteeism, but we had 6 show decline. So we want to make sure that we keep that at the forefront. We didn't make as much as we wanted to, but we are making progress. This graph, again, it's just showing us over time. Where were we at when we look at 2019, when we were pandemic, we were at 8.7. We are, when you look at this graph, you're looking at, we had a decrease, so we're slowly starting to make an impact in this area. So we know that you guys want to know, how does this relate to our LCAP? So we did not meet our goal in our LCAP because we wanted to be at 15.4. We only decreased by 0.9. We're at 17.5 in this area. But we have a lot in place from our LCAP that we continue. We have attendance teams that meet regularly. We have our TOSAs. We have lots of outreach to families, home visits that we're doing. This year, we've created an alternative education for some of our most chronic students that have 50% or below that had met that target already since October. We have this alternative program, and even in the alternative program, which is an online in-person, we are still seeing chronic absenteeism. So we are working with families to help address this. These are some of our middle school students. And we do have a lot of supports at Foresight. So there's a lot of work that's going into this area, but it's also a challenging area because we have to address many different barriers. Some of the things that we're seeing, and especially with our teenagers, is some of them really don't want to come to school. And so we're really trying to give them encouragement and support in our alternative program. We have a teacher as well as a mental health support system that is meeting with families regularly as well, and students. So the program just started. And so children, of course, like all students, are taking time to trust. And so we really need to identify these students for some mental health support as well. So we're now in that process of doing that as the program continues. But it is an area of challenge for us. So although we have not met our goal, we did do a little bit, and we continue to work on it this year. In terms of suspensions, again, when we look at how we compare to the state, we have made 1.4 declining, and this is an area where we have had great success. So we want to make sure we keep that success up. Again, no students in the red, right? So we always look at where do we have students to focus on. So in summary, for our suspensions, we want to focus in that we had 9 of our schools who reduced suspensions last year. And we did meet our LCAP goal for this one. So we really want to highlight that we are doing a lot of work in terms of suspensions. Over time, you can see that we've never had it. I'm glad we've never been very high, but we are surpassing at 1.1 in 2025 when looking at 2019. So we are doing well in this area. Again, we did meet our goal for our LCAP on this one, but we are continuing to work with our PBIS and alternatives to suspensions. This is an area that we continue to have suspensions. We're just not having them in the numbers that we had in the past. So we're still working with how do we create alternatives to suspensions at all the school sites, especially the middle schools. Okay. In terms of our English learner progress, again, we're looking at, we have maintained this progress in the area, although we did reclassify lots of students. There's different criteria for different purposes. So for our long-term English learners, this is an area, again, 7-year students who have been in the country for 7 years. We had an 8.1 increase of students who are FET. And so that's a wonderful progress that we've had, especially as they go into high school. And so again, this is an area that we are very proud of. And a lot of work that went into that last year. And just in summary from our data, we really want to make sure that although we made great progress with our long-term English learners. We want to make sure that we continue this progress and report and work that we've been doing in the last several years. We want to recognize that we did have 7 schools who increased number of students moving up 1 level on the LP. So we have our LPAC, which is our assessment, our diagnostic, but the LP is where you have students moving from level to level. And so we want to highlight that we did have students moving from levels on the overall. So the state uses a different metric to how do we move one area to another from students to make sure we are reclassifying. Another great strength of ours that we had for the first time, 9.4% of our students with disabilities actually made some growth in the alternative. So there's some of the students that have to take an alternative test for depending on different areas of need for further disability. So we take that win and that growth. And we are on track to meet our LCAP goal number 2 with 2.9. So we are making progress on all of these goals. But we have a lot of work to do. So again, just looking at where we are from the pandemic, we had the increase, right? We're at 48.1. We came over last year and the 2 years prior, our highest was in 22 when we first came back out of the pandemic. But this just shows that this is the first time, if you look at it in the last 3 years, that for our students with disabilities, we've made some good growth there. So hats off to our SLC teachers and ESLC teachers who've been working with these students. And so we are on our goal 2 for LPAC. I think earlier I said we were on track, but we are not on track. Sorry, that was my misstep. But we wanted to be at 45% with our students. We are only made up to 41, but we are taking that 2.9 and continue to move and work. We have been working with our target schools, which have been working with Dr. Saguilan for the last 2 years. Lots of progress being made there with demonstration lessons, planning, and moving forward. We also this year have incorporated more we have assessments 3 times a year now that we did not do last year. So monitor our English progress with our language power, and we now added Summit for middle school students. And one of the things that we are making sure is that all students have ELD courses, which is a mandate. And we're holding to that. So Ms. Rivera, our multilingual director, is very consistent at visiting classrooms throughout the weeks. She has a schedule where she's at sites and she is monitoring, making sure this is happening. So we're going to move into the academic area of ELA. So again, looking comparatively at the state level, again, we're matching the state, we're in yellow, but we did make some growth, 11.1 points. Although it's small, it's still a win. It's better than when we were at before. So some of our key findings just from the data is that our priority schools that were in double digits, it had increases. Again, I want to remind you that our priority schools 2 years ago were all in red. We are no longer in red, and we have to take that. We have one site with one area. So I just want to remind us that the work has been a lot of work, but we have moved these out of the red. And I'm very proud of all the work that the teachers and the students have all put into this, because it takes a lot to get them out. So Hoover, Garfield, Roosevelt, McKinley, which have been a lot of our work, a lot of good work went in, and they have made some gains. We want to keep that momentum going. And so again, Taft, Clifford, and Henford also made, but they were more in the single digits gains, but still, we'll take that. It's better than not having anything at all. And then we also had Avalon and Kennedy and Orion make some move as well. So we want to just remind us that the work is hard, but we are making growth, steady growth. So for our LCAP goal, we are not on track. We missed it. We have a lot of growth to have to do this next year if we want to make our goal for next year, which is 15.3%. That means we have to have an 8.8% increase this year. So we're working hard this year. We have put a lot of actions into our LCAP, all based on reading comprehension, both for all our 3rd through 5th graders, as well as our 6th to 8th grade. So our focus is reading comprehension, which is an area that we need. We focused in on phonics 2 years ago, and now it's reading, the comprehension piece. We continue with our PLC focuses, not only in writing, reading, some sites have math. And again, we are making sure that we have assessments built into that now that we did not have before. So we have more regular assessments being done so that teachers could use it to guide their practice and guide student work and small group instruction in reading. In math, again, we're very comparable to the state. We had 8.6 points where we made some growth, very small. But we've also had a lot of change in curriculum. And so that was with our 2 years with our new curriculum. Again, when we think about our priority schools that we've been working on, they had double-digit gains, which is Garfield, Roosevelt, McKinley, and Henry Ford last year. We also had Taft, Hoover, and Clifford make some gains. Overall, almost all our schools made some gains, and we're really proud to see that has made some progress. It didn't meet our goal, but it's okay. We take it. It's slow and steady, wins the race versus going fast. So, and we want to just point out that our English learners, which is our target, also made some gains. All right. So we have a lot of work to do with our English learners to close that gap, but we are moving towards it. And we are maintaining versus slipping back. So when we think about our maintaining in math, we've had a lot. Math has been an area, and not just in our district, but across the state, where it continues to be a struggle for all of us as to how we're making progress. But we continue to work on for our K at our professional development coming up in January. We continue to work on our math centers, and we had some training with our teachers using the apps to make sure they're using the apps to support fluency. And because that is the biggest issue that teachers say, the kids don't memorize their facts. So we're really working on making sure that we have built in into the math time that fluency practice. We are looking at math planning sessions as well, working with some of our coaches. And as you all know, our 6-8 just started their first year of implementation of the new adoption. And this year also, all grade levels, we are having them administer chapter tests more consistently on a consistent basis to analyze and work towards where students are to help support them. So all of those assessments were not in place before. So this year we are moving forward with that. So in closing, I know that we have not met our goals, but we are making steady progress, and I want to make sure that we celebrate our staff and our students for the work that they've accomplished, as it's a lot of work. I know our teachers put a lot of time and effort into everything we do, as well as our principals, our coaches who are consistently out there supporting our staff. And so we are making progress, even though it's not showing clearly how you want to see it on the data.
Thanks, Hannah, for the presentation. And also for condensing it down, tying everything to the LCAP. It really synthesized everything that we saw from the raw data into a presentation that I thought personally I found really, really engaging to follow. So I appreciate that. Shall we switch to board? I don't think we have any public comments, so we can jump right into board comments discussion. Yeah, Jen, yeah, go
More
ahead.
of a tangent.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Anna, for the presentation. Looking at this information and seeing Taft on there a few times, it just reminded me of the pilot program that we're running there. Could you just remind me kind of what that program is, like what the pilot is programming at at Taft, and if we're going to kind of see a follow-up and kind of how this ties to some of their.
Yeah, so the TAF pilot that we're having is really structured planning time for the third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers. So they pretty much have the one afternoon free for them to actually sit and plan. So they have at least a 2.5 hour chunk. After lunch, they are in the classroom planning till the end of the day. So we have Branya is our coach there, so she meets with them regularly. And so we bring in the coaches with math and our ELA and to really work with them on the benchmark. They are also piloting the benchmark. And so a lot of the focus has been bringing in the benchmark, reading comprehension focus, bringing in the CRLP practices that we have into the benchmark and planning for those steps that we're doing. So we're combining CRLP with benchmark training and working with the teachers for planning instruction around reading comprehension is one of the big areas. And Taft PLC work is all around reading comprehension for their school site. So it sort of ties very easily into some of the Taft goals this year.
And I assume this is all just kind of integrated with the EL work, or is that going to be separate, or is there...
It's a little bit of everything because it's looking at where kids are. And since Taft has a high population of English learners, so they're really embedded in all of the work for them. And so, yeah, we are working on compiling some information on how that's going as well.
Other questions, comments? Cecilia, yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. And of course, thank you to everyone that is putting all their effort, especially the teachers to, like you said, it's hard, but we will get there. And then I just thought since Anne's slide on data is a flashlight, I just thought, well, the flashlight is pointing into the right direction. And although at the end of the road may be far, we will get there with the bright light. I just want to see us, with the positive, we need to be positive. And yes, said it before, moving the needle, maybe it's moving slow, but it is moving. So I also want to say thank you to all the LPAC proctors. Yes. I know that it's a lot of work that they put into it, and everybody that manages to arrange all the testing, because I know it's a lot of work throughout the year at different times of the year. And again, the the English learners have maintained and are moving in the right direction. And I think we are moving forward, maybe not as fast as we want to, but Redwood City teachers and staff do put in a lot of work. And so just like you said, we do want to thank them because it's not an easy task, but again, they're doing it every single day. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Cecilia. David, do you have questions, comments? David, go ahead. Yeah.
So I love getting to go and look at the data and the data behind this presentation. Thank you for condensing, but similarly, thank you for the raw data as well, because it's great to see. And when you go through that, it becomes clear that there's some data points that are extremely strong. I was really impressed by the rate of improvement of ELA in Roosevelt and MIT in particular. Those are really strong numbers. We saw some good movement from Garfield and Hoover as well. Anytime we're trying things and we have a big needle to move, some of the things that we try are going to work out and some aren't, right? And it's not a judgment call of like good teachers and bad teachers or like good ideas and bad ideas, but it's about our district being in a learning process itself. And so it would be great to see, can we take some of those things that seemingly have worked really well for ELA development at Roosevelt and MIT and make sure that those are rolled out more broadly across the other schools in the district? I would love just a little more color about how we're doing it, how we're finding the wins and copy pasting them as quickly as we can across the district.
And Dr. Baker and I have talked about this. We have to invest in providing coaches and planning time, because that's really what's making the difference. Okay. Dedicated planning time to what we want to do, so that teachers and having coaches that really help support the endeavor. Yeah. It does help move the needle. Right now, we don't have coaches at each of the sites. And our target sites, we have had a lot of movement into those target sites. And so we are seeing a lot of that work, and it's also dedicated planning time built in throughout the day. So they have release time to plan and work on what needs to be done to help. So that is a key issue that we need to continue across. And we know that teachers keep asking, we want more planning time. Planning time, it's really, it needs to be dedicated planning time without interruptions. And so we have been fortunate at our school sites to have guest teachers. This year, some of our school sites, we've added 2 guest teachers to some of our high priority sites. And so that really helps with the planning because they're not worried about, am I going to get a sub? Am I going to get this? They have 2 dedicated people who can help relieve, take over a classroom so teachers can plan. So that has been one of the things that I think that has been very beneficial in having that dedicated time for some of our staff.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've had that at Roosevelt had 2 guest teachers last year. McKinley has it this year. Hoover has it this year as well. Garfield had it last year as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anytime we have a goal and if we do hit it, it's very easy. Like, yay, we did awesome, right? And that's fun. But when we miss a goal, I think it can be helpful to ask, like, well, were we being overly optimistic? Did we just make these numbers up, or did we have specific interventions in mind that we thought credibly could move the needle that much? And then we tried them, and some of them worked, but actually some of them didn't. And then that's a learning moment, or just like what's behind the miss? Because I think in particular, I look at the math slide, right, where we made no motion at all, and it's like, oh, that really stings, right? And it's got to sting for everyone, right? And I wonder, like, what did we try that didn't work out the degree to which we expected that it would work out? And then how are we going to change course to credibly start moving the needle in the right direction?
Well, and just because you're bringing up math, I mean, math, this is our second year. We finished our second year with our new program. I think this year And so I do think that with the math new curriculum, the teachers were still learning it in their second year. I think this year, as we are looking and being in classrooms and observing teachers, there's definitely some more growth that has happened this last year between the years as they become more proficient as to what are the needs in the classroom, how they're using assessments to really guide that instruction. So I think this year, as they teachers solidify their learning, and we provide them opportunities to plan, especially in the K2 where we are providing them time for planning with centers, looking at fluency to build it. Because as we all know, just thinking about TK, if we build that foundation when they're younger with that fluency, they get better when they're in the upper grades. And so we really need to build that fluency to help with the math. So I think it's starting in TK that they're coming in, and then building those skills with the critical thinking. So I think with math, we have a long way to go is one of our areas that's not our strongest. We've really invested a lot more time in reading in the last couple of years, not enough in math.
Just to be clear, I agree with the stack
Yeah.
rank prioritization.
Yeah.
Literacy comes first, then math, then everything else.
Yeah.
Right.
So
But
I'm going to be honest, that's where our focus was
Yeah.
and has been.
Yeah.
And a lot of the math today has a lot of reading components. So that's why our focus
Yep.
is so much on the reading comprehension. But there are areas in math that we still have to tighten up with our staff and planning.
that all makes sense. Thank you so much. What I struggle with a little bit is like we're the degree to which we are not seeing forward progress because it's kind of year 2 for this new curriculum, right? And is it, I guess, if I could sort of imagine, pun intended, around the impact of a new curriculum, David Lee, the impact of a new curriculum rollout over time, it sort of sounds like implicitly the first year or 2 is almost a backslide as the teachers have to scramble to figure out how to teach the new curriculum. And then like, what I'm curious about is like, what's the shape of the payoff curve? Right? Like, do we see like year 3 is where it really comes to life and we start seeing some nice forward motion? And please, for the love of God, trustees, do not change the math curriculum again. In like year 4, you're going to torpedo, the teachers being in the sweet spot of like finally having nailed the way to teach Imagine Math.
I mean, it is a different way of teaching. And Imagine Math, not only is it a different way of teaching, it's a different way for our teachers to change and learn how we have to change our thinking as a teacher in math to this critical way of opening it up to be more open-ended, right? And that's a struggle for a lot of staff. We want to give them the algorithm because we know the algorithm works, but it's not getting them the back end of what was needed for algebra and for the courses that are ahead. So we have to really back. So it does take time to teach. I think one of the things that we've added this year that we didn't do last year we attempted, and I say attempted.
Yeah.
Okay, because we attempted to add 3 times where they had to assess students. Unfortunately, it wasn't we were hoping they would be on pacing guide, right? But if they're not on the pacing guide, we're doing the assessment, but because you're telling us, not because that's where we're at.
Right.
So last year we had 3 assessments built in. We missed the mark where being aligned for many of the sites. Some sites it was a hit or miss. This year, they're a little bit more aligned because everyone's doing the assessments and having common time for that. And principals are monitoring those assessments with their staff.
Fair.
So that is a change that we did not have in place at all. And the assessments do guide instruction if we're looking at them consistently, right?
Fair. Are we expecting to see growth in math based on our current plans and based on teachers now entering into a 3rd year of IM and having that experience under their belt?
I would say yes, we are. I think we've all been in classrooms and looking at what kids are doing. And sharing some of those mathematical thinking practice that we're asking. We are seeing some changes even in students.
The piece that is still lacking, and this is, I know we're having to work within a budget, is the coaching piece. And it's
For math,
very
yes.
important. I was just looking at my notes from AEC
Yeah.
that I have here at the different sessions that I went to. And the schools that have made the most progress, and I'm looking at it, come on, get out of here. A school district in Long Beach, was not only in the language arts, which they spoke a lot about, but it was the coaching and the math also, especially when you're getting a new curriculum. And the piece with this school district, it's taken them to move that needle to where they want it to be. It's taken them 6 years, but it was consistent. The board did not move in any fashion against of putting the PD and the coaches in the classroom. Now, it meant that the board and the superintendent had to agree that you were not going to deviate from that, from something that you hear somewhere. No, you're going to stick with they agreed to a 5-year period, but now it's been 6. The scores they're there, but they have the coaching, they have the planning time, and it's there, and they're monitoring it.
So what I'm hearing is the payoff curve is on the order of 6 years and involves consistent coaching. And we can have the patience if we feel like we're on the right track here.
We have 1 coach.
It sounds like we are deficient.
Okay, so I mean, we have 1 coach, 1 coach. So that is deficient.
Yeah.
Sorry, where's the coach? Where's
Well, we have a K-5 coach, and then we have one K-5 coach and 1 middle school coach.
And
We have
I
2, but I
think-
think about our biggest, we have,
Yeah.
to support all the schools.
Okay. I think I suspect that David Weekly and I are thinking on the same line. I think one thing is totally heard on the new curriculum piece. And this is why it's really helpful to see disaggregated data. Everyone's going through the new curriculum, but we are still seeing uneven changes in achievement.
Yes.
And again, this is not a good or bad. It's like, I think that should inform, well, what happened at the sites that did have a lot of improvement that we can replicate elsewhere. And I think that I fear we're not, like, as a board, aren't getting enough detail into that insight to understand and have the confidence that, okay, we can stay the course. But so that's one point. But to Dr. Baker, your point, and I think to what Trustee Weekly said earlier, in my view, first of all, I do think goals are important. I'll say more about that later. But if we're not hitting our goals consistently, I think at least one of 3 things has to be true. Either 1, the goals are unrealistic, and that could be because they're just moonshots. It could be because we don't have enough resources. It could be a bunch of reasons, but if they're not realistic, that's one reason. A second reason is that our strategies we came in with and they were informed and they were wrong or not completely right. Or the third possibility is our execution of those strategies is not going right. And again, not a blame, but like we just got to figure that out. And I'm afraid that if we consistently hew to goals that we're not meeting, then the meaning of those goals becomes less and less, right? Because people have to feel like they have a chance at success. And if we're not getting that consistently, that's my fear.
I mean, I understand, but we had a 4% increase. That is not a lot. That was our goal. And when we looked at the data to create LCAP goals, we had never been achieving anything. I mean, we had not been achieving for our English learners, not even 1%. So 4% was like, let's look at what we can, maybe a little bit achievable. We're not achieving it. You're right. We're not. We're maintaining, we're looking forward. We have a lot of changes, but we can't be changing every single year what we're doing because it takes time to implement. And our teachers are working as hard. We're providing professional development, but it takes time. And I know our English learners need the supports. There is not one of us here on this cabinet that does not agree that we need to support our English learners. And that's what our goal was, because that's who we're failing. As an English learner coming up in the United States, I understand the struggles, right? And that's why we have been putting so much emphasis on our teachers and the professional development on the English roadmap, on the English framework, for them to understand what it takes. You can't change practice without having professional development and coaching to help support it. So yes, we are working towards that. We don't have enough coaches, not in the math, we don't have enough coaches. We know that. And I came into this position, I said, Dr. Baker, we need coaches at the sites. I was a coach here in Redwood City for 7 years. So I understand what coaching takes. I understand what the movement does, but the program that I was coaching, it took us 5 years to make Hoover change. It took, again, 5 years with a lot of work, coaching, modeling, professional development. It's not going to be from one day to the next. So if you guys want me to invest in coaching and math, then we have to look at our LCAP and see what we need to change and take out so that we can support that. And I'm happy to do that.
That is exactly what I'm asking. To be clear, I'm not discounting the difficulty that making these monumental changes requires. I'm totally bought into that. And I'm totally bought into the notion that it takes time, because the same way that we just talked about in TK, that you don't get literacy in third grade, just in third grade. I understand all of that. That all takes time. But again, that to me, that goes back to the question of, did we set a bar in the first year that was unrealistic given the resources that we currently have? And if the answer is yes, like that's okay. We should revisit that. And if the answer is we still believe firmly in these goals, but we need to dedicate resources that really support that, that's also okay. But I think we just need to have that discussion pretty transparently.
And that's fine. I just don't think we have an LCAP that's a 3-year plan, right? And we didn't achieve the goals in the last plan at all. And so those were percentages that we had to meet. We didn't meet them either. So when I looked at numbers and we could have done overall, and I said, no, our English learners is where the work needs to go to. And that's the work that we've been moving forward has been a lot of that. But we also have to figure out, I don't think it's unachievable. I think we're gaining momentum. And I do hope that this year we gain a lot more momentum in all the work that we've done with the math, with the teachers and the planning and the PLCs, all the work that we're trying to do to move the needle. I don't think that we should be looking at and changing any goals, because we have to maintain what we're doing and be consistent. And this is what the teachers are asking for. The teachers are asking for, please don't bring in one more new thing. Please let us just maintain and be better at the craft that we're trying to do with the changes we're trying to do. And that really is honoring the teachers that we're making a lot of changes and we can't be changing every single year. So, right. So I know that it's hard. I know it's hard work and I'm willing to invest in making sure we have coaches at our sites. But we only have our LCAP with so much money, right, that I can invest in. And in times we're trying to reduce staffing, it's also an issue of how do we impact what we're trying to do with our goals to help move them forward when we only have so much money for so much work. We have invested, we're investing in tutoring on all of our sites. Some are math tutoring, and most of our sites have math tutoring at our target sites. We've seen strides there. But we don't offer it to all our students that are not on campus. We have we have teacher tutoring. I mean, we're investing money in tutoring, we're investing people. What we do definitely need more math coaches if we want to make some more strides.
So again, I'm not suggesting, well, really, I'm not trying to suggest anything in terms of the LCAP, other than just what are we thinking about this strategically and consciously? And even when I say if we revisit the LCAP, I'm not suggesting difference in practice. I'm saying, is 17% still the right number, or is 15 points, whatever, is some other number more appropriate? Like, I just want to make sure that we are having wins, that is actually appropriately reflected with our expectations. Putting that aside, the second piece, this goes back to the same conversation or the comment that I made earlier with TK, which is I'm really, really concerned about the funding issue that we have. Like, we don't have enough funding, period. But it is our duty to convince the public why we need more money. And so when the answer is we have these goals and they're ambitious and we're going to do the best that we can, but it's going to make it that much more feasible if we have X amount, because that allows us to get coaching, Y amount, because that allows us to send, whatever else, that tutoring, that's going to be more powerful. And it's, again, we don't have to put this out in the public meeting right now, but like that is what I'm hungry for, that information, so that I can be the advocate for our district for the rest of the public. So look, I know that this is getting into an uncomfortable conversation, but I think it's necessary. And I do think all of us are on the same page of like, it is a necessary conversation because we don't have the time to lose. Like every single year is another generation of students that we could be passing by. And so I know you all know that. I know that, but we need to make sure that the public also understands that, and that we're being conscientious, and that we're being strategic about every single dollar that we're spending, every single minute that we're spending is going towards the right stuff. So again, I understand it's an uncomfortable piece, but that is where all this is coming from.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from trustees? No, okay. Thanks, Anna. Really, I hear from you loud and clear the importance, impact of coaching and and planning time. It's one of the things that we kind of talk about it. It's like we recognize the importance of it. We hear about what they're doing, but this conversation, you really kind of like shine a light on it. And I know, like even the guest teachers, just how much impact that is. It's not really just a convenience. It's really, critical to both teacher well-being, but also like to how students are achieving. So that was really informative, and also you really reinforced the urgency around LCAP Goal 2. There's been great gains. Like we can see that in the data. There's been great gains around Goal 2. And I think we should be definitely celebrating it. But thank you for just, reinforcing that urgency there. I really appreciate that. It remains very real. And I know that you put it in there. It really, like any kind of gain that happens here really takes, instructional effort across the district. It's not an accident. So what we do see for ELA and maybe not for math yet, but what we have seen and where we have seen it, it's been real work in classrooms, it's been the PLCs, and it's been the site leadership. And I don't want to lose sight of that. I want to make sure that we're doing that. One thing that I did want to point out about the dashboard, like it's important for us to look at it. This has been a healthy conversation about last year, but I think as a governance side, we should be thinking about, does our in-year metrics, were we surprised by anything that the dashboard showed us? Or did we already know it? But by our in-year metrics, because really, like, our in-year monitoring is what we're using to make adjustments during the year. I don't think that we were surprised by anything on the dashboard. I think we already knew it. I feel like we've had a lot of these conversations before based upon the data from the past, but is that right? Did it?
You are
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. So
There was nothing that was a surprise. No.
yeah. Yeah. And that we have the right things in place to be able to see it as it's happening. So that's great to hear. Yeah, great. Well, thank you for the presentation, for going through it, providing all the raw data so that we could dig into it. And I'm looking forward to the progress as we make through it this year.
It's hard to hear that, and I'm just going to put it out there. The board feels that we're not going in the direction that you had thought we were going to go in. And as much as we work very hard with our staff and with staff, including teachers, instructional assistants, the principals, and bringing in the new curriculum and not hoping, but making sure that it's being taught consistently on a regular basis to fidelity and getting the training that's needed to move that needle. There has been, and you see in the English language arts, there has been some growth. The math is another story. This is the end of year 2, and we're still moving, and I know there are budget issues that are coming that we're facing. You're at those meetings, you see what's happening. So as a board, you're going to have to say, okay, maybe we have to get into some other kind of funding and talk to Rick and take the heat where the heat's going to come from. I won't be here to experience it, but you may have to do that. And the next superintendent may have to be in this seat saying, we have to do this because this is what is needed. And when Rick gets to the first interim, he can maybe talk about that a bit. But if things may remain like they are, and there's no parcel tax because of what you're saying, David, that you're reading in social media, and you know how this district is. I know how this district is, how this city is. I've been here for 40 plus years, own properties in this district, know what these families are thinking and what they think about those of us of color. So we're going to have to make some hard choices, because without the support monetarily, this is not going to change. No matter what Anna does and her team does, if we don't get other, I'm going to say experts with those, the coaches and the staff development we have, we're going to be here again next year and the year after that. So it's sad that you're feeling the way that, or expressing what you're expressing, and we're doing what we can do, what we have at this point in time. Now, parcel tax, I know we're going to be talking about that, but there's no guarantee. There is no guarantee. I know this city too well, and so does Cecilia, because we're probably the ones that are at this table that have been in this district for so many years. So with that being said, I want to thank Anna for what she's done with the little that she's had in trying to move the needle. Can you take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break. We'll reconvene in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Thanks. All right, let's reconvene as our 10-minute break timer ends up. We're on to our discussion items. So let's start with 7.1. This is the first reading and discussion of the board policy in AR 0510. This is the school accountability report card. It's an update to an existing policy. There's a new AR for it. Does anyone have, unless Wendy, did you want to do preamble or introduction here? Does anybody have questions or comments about this one that they'd like to discuss here? Yeah, no, looked fine to me. No, I give a long pause, remember?
Was it-
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
That's
So,
great.
okay, 7.2, we can move on. This is the first reading discussion for board policy 1100. This is communication with the public.
So on this one, there's the mention of a comms policy. It was mentioned by Jorge that that's given to the board every 2 to 3 years. I just would love to know where on the cycle we are. Like should we expect to see that in a year, 2 years? Just like that was my only question.
Right, Jorge's available for specific questions. Do you mind adding him, Carlos? Thank you.
Remember we had one. I can't remember when the last one was. I distinctly remember it, but yeah, right, exactly.
We don't do this audit that, and he's asked to do the audit, but it's $40,000 and I'm not spending $40,000 on it.
Yeah.
It's an outside person, outside entity. Sequoia just had theirs done, but your money's, it's a bit different. And they tell you, you know,
Sorry, what's the $40,000 audit?
it's an audit on your communication.
Oh, so I was
process.
thinking it was just like Jorge would get up and spend like 5-10 minutes saying like, this is our plan for how we're going to communicate about the district.
Right, and he does a survey. He does a survey to staff. He does a survey to parents, and the last time he did it, I think, was a couple years ago, 2 to 3 years ago. But he's online now. So, Jorge, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right. Can you answer that
Can you hear
question?
me?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Do you want
Yes. I think Trustee Weekly is referring to updating the Board of Trustees on the communications plan. And Trustee Wells mentioned that the last presentation, which I believe was in 2024 or 2023, when we launched the redesign of the district and school logos. That presentation focused on that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious, like what our cadence of report out is for communications plan. It sounds like maybe in another year or two, we'll.
But the policy, I believe, says annually now, doesn't it? Or doesn't it say that? I'd have to go pull it up again from the last time I read it.
Yeah, it is one of the highlighted things. But do we think it's so appropriate to the discussion? Do we think annually is a good report out here, frequency for the evaluation of the district communications plan? I mean, we're agreeing here to make it policy that we annually review the comms plan and make
Well,
the recommendation.
Trustee Lee had requested that anytime it says periodically, it should be replaced with annually for all policies. So that's why it is as such.
As a default.
Right.
Yeah. So I think my push is let's not use the word periodically, which doesn't tell us anything, and let's put something in there. But to your point, let's make sure it's the right one. Like, let's not do annually if
Sounds like
it
in
doesn't
this
make
case, it would
sense.
be overly burdensome.
It would be.
Yes.
Yeah,
It would
but
be.
we should
So
not do that.
I would suggest we use different language than annually.
Sorry, is it triannually then right now, or what is the current practice?
Yeah, I believe it is triannually, isn't it?
It's 2 to 3 years. Every
Yeah.
2 to 3 years is what has been the practice.
Okay, would staff be comfortable with a policy of every 3 years we do a comms review? Does that sound sane? We're saying then
I think
annual?
that sounds sane.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, can I
Nice.
recommend that we
I
amend
think-
the policy to triannually, meaning once every 3 years, not 3 times a year?
Right. Acceptable. Sounds good. Okay, great. Thank you for bringing
Thank
that
you,
up.
Jorge.
Yeah, thanks, Jorge, for hopping on and answering. Shall we move on to 7.3? Okay, so this is the first reading and discussion of BP and AR 1340. This is access to district records. Looks like a minor update to the existing policy by moving stuff to that would be more appropriate in the regulation. Okay, shall we move on to 7.4? All right. 7.4 is board policy 1112, media relations.
Was there any reason behind the changing of media representatives to news media representatives? Oh, there was. Okay. A Jorge question.
Jorge, do you want to speak to the change
What's the
from?
difference between media and news media? I mean, vloggers and bloggers are not included, but people with press credentials are?
Yes, correct. So the intention was to make it very clear that we're talking about professional journalists who the school district interacts with for media coverage.
Is news media the right term then versus like credentialed? There's like, is it clear what the term means? Because like if somebody comes in here and tries to like is turned down by the policy, and then there ends up being a ruckus about like the definition of news media versus media, it's like are we covered appropriately in our definitions here? Because like there's a thing like show me your credentials, right? So like there are formal credentialing that you can get for like if you're a member of the media as a journalist that you basically can't get if you're just a random blogger. And it sounds like that is the distinction we are trying to make. So I'm just wondering if there are words we can use to make it clear, like that's what we mean.
Well, let's defer to Jorge because he had strong opinions about this and he
Okay.
was a former journalist. So
Look at that.
I know he would be the expert. So Jorge, do you mind jumping back on?
Yes, so news media would be the accurate term for professional journalists who do identify themselves when they contact you for coverage of the school district.
Okay, well, if that's
Yeah.
the official term, then that's the official term.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying it. Shall we move on to the next one? Say we do 7.5 and 7.6. We can discuss them together. They're both it's different employee classifications. It's 4.235 and 4.335, but it's both soliciting and selling, and the wording is verbatim the same.
There's a good question that popped up from David Weekly, Trustee Weekly, regarding, what would occur if, let's say, a teacher was writing a book and wanted to sell it. And this board policy would allude that the teacher can use district resources or district sources of directory information or so forth to do that. I don't think that's so much of an issue, at least not something I'm aware of currently. This is different than, for example, teachers tutoring after school in their own classroom and potentially could solicit like, oh, I'm a tutor for math, I'm available. There's a different policy for that. And actually the majority of the previous board, Cecilia was still on, I think, and perhaps Mike at the time, looked at that policy and made allocations for teachers to be able to do that. So since your inquiry, that popped into my mind, but I think that's the only one I can think of where that might be a little. But this appears to me of more of a product, the way I read it.
Just so folks are clear, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't accidentally prohibit something that was happening today that we actually like happening, like if a teacher was part of a author illustrator fair or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good clarification. And this, of course, is covering the rest of the classified staff and the anyone not in certificate or classified. We already had the other policy. Okay, let's move on to 7.7. This is the first reading discussion of the BP and AR 5113.12. This is District School Attendance Review Board. And then I did have one question. Like, I was trying to read the feedback that I got, but does this change how we operate our SARBs, or is there any material change to how we operate the SARBs by adopting this policy, or is it just bringing into line like our existing practice?
So we've been participating in the SARB process for quite some time.
Yeah.
However, we didn't have the board policy to
So
support
this is
it.
just, but
The lion's share would be what we're currently doing.
yeah, okay. Move on to 7.8. Okay, 7.8 is the first reading discussion of BP and AR 5125, and this is about student records.
So there was a question about this one I just wanted to bring up regarding the duty for the district to notify the California Cyber Integration Center.
Right.
if even a single account is compromised, this was Trustee Weekly's question, the language says that if more than 500 people are impacted, we need to report, but the board policy committee actually struck that 500 figure out. And my memory was it, so correct me if I'm wrong, board policy committee, because we go through so many, and we have a meeting tomorrow too, I might add, is that we know that when one student account is compromised, we of course notify the student and family. And the concern was that this would be a problem, right, for the people affected. So where it gets, the N goes up to 500. 500 is the notification for families, the attorney, et cetera. So that range was, we knew notifications had to occur. And the desire was that we wanted to reduce that number from 500 to a lower number, which was really any. So that's my memory. Does anyone have another opinion on that?
So that paragraph cites Ed Code 35266, and it's from that Ed Code 35266 that we get the number 500 and the mandatory reporting to California Cybersecurity Integration Center. I don't think there's anything in there, if we were to keep the language that impacts more than 500 students or personnel, that paragraph is just talking about when we need to notify the California Cybersecurity Integration Center. And so we can let parents and students and so forth know about any sort of scope of attack that's impacted them, their families, their students. But striking the restriction would mean technically that the policy would require us to go above and beyond Ed Code 35266 and report anything at all. So I don't want to create lots of administrative burden for staff. And the Ed Code says 500, so I would be tempted to just say 500 there.
I believe this was a staff recommendation.
Oh.
I don't.
And I think it was, I thought we had discussed the same question. But I'm looking through the notes and I do not know where it came from. But I share the same,
I'm trying to defend staff here.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you
I
guys
agree.
filling out lots of extra paperwork here.
Yeah, if we're saying, if it's going to be overly burdensome to report every single one, we should know that now and not do that if we don't have to.
Rick, do you have an opinion? I know it's your department, you oversee the department.
Yeah, I would prefer that it was left in. The
500?
500 cents for notifying the Attorney General and the state on that. I mean, we could have a simple thing where a password was passed around campus when 10 students access a same account. We're not going to notify.
I feel pretty strongly that we should keep the 500 number in. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Great. And I don't know who confirmed this for me, but thank you to whoever confirmed that our vendors already have language in their contracts to be compliant with the AB 801. So that's great to hear about that.
Yeah, all of our biggest vendors, I'll just pick on one, Power School, right? That's fully outlined, although we have some issues there. But there in all the other contracts, as I was thinking about this today, that we've gone through recently, all have data destruction and ownership rights retained to the school district.
A really detailed cyber notification policy that was rigorously implemented because they got very badly hacked. Yeah.
Cool. That ends our discussion items. We can move on to approval of the consent. These are considered routine. We'll pass them in one motion. We did remove 8.3 to a later date. So this is the consent agenda without 8.3. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move we approve the consent agenda minus 8.3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then we're on to our action items. And this is the 9.1, this is the adoption of the annual organizational meeting date set for December 17th, 2025. That would be next week. Just so everyone knows, this is, an annual requirement that we have to announce it within, I forget the exact times of it, but this is the time that we do it. So if everyone's in favor, if there's anything to discuss, I don't think there's anything to present beyond what's in the memo. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye, excellent. And now we're going to move on to discussing and selecting a taxpayer organization representative for the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. Rick.
Yeah, good evening. Tonight, we are bringing forward two applicants, Mr. Anthony Haney and Mr. Alan Hansen, who both applied to be members of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, which has oversight over Measure S and Measure T. They're both have applied for the vacancy of the taxpayer organization representative. We did invite both of them for the meeting tonight. I don't see any online and nor in the audience. If they wanted to be part of this process. I'd also like to note that,
Alan Hansen is joining the Zoom.
oh, has he joined?
He's in the process of joining. He should be on in
Okay.
the next few seconds.
So they're here if there's any questions. Mr. Hansen's here if there'll be any questions from the board. Of those, I'll also note that there are other open positions on the oversight committee. And after one is selected tonight, the one that is not selected, we will inquire if they would like to fill another role. And if they do, then we'll bring that back on consent next week for formal board approval. So tonight we are looking for the representative for the taxpayer organization that has been vacant since last summer, when the previous person filling that role resigned to move out of state. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board if there's any questions I can answer or beyond what's in the board packet.
Thanks, Rick. I just have one question for my own understanding. So Anthony Haney specifically said that he was part of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association. And then Alan, it just says bona fide taxpayer organization. Is that, we have any specifics in that, or that's just a
I
standard?
think that's how he filled out his application.
Okay.
Any questions, David?
So we have an open seat for the taxpayer rep. We have, and because there's a total of 9 seats now that we have.
So there's 7. The law requires that we.
The law requires 7. I believe that we bumped it up to the CBOC to 9
I
in
think the
2020.
bylaws allow, the bylaws, Rick, do you remember?
Yeah, but in 21, it was increased to 9.
So we have 9 potential seats, and we have open seats. That one of them is at large, one of them is for taxpayer rep. Do we have another
Business organization.
and a business organization? All right, and then the other 6 seats are filled at present. That's the lay of the land. Okay, great.
I think the easiest way to think about it, just if you're looking at it, is that has to be at least 7 people, and then there's 5 categories. And those 7 have to fill those 5 categories, and there's nothing in the statute that says one person can't fill multiple categories. So,
Oh, interesting.
yeah. I'm sharing useful information. I see that. I got some of it. Yeah, and I mean, as you point out, I think that's the thing is that the oversight committee is not meeting the numerical requirement, nor is it meeting the categorical requirement. This is an attempt to close in on both. And it sounds like if we wanted to, we could, if Alan's interested in it, or if whoever's not selected is interested in it, they could end up coming in for another position, right? We'll only look for this one seat category is how we're running the item.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And consider it.
And then the other one, unless there's information we don't have, it would be the other at-large seat.
Right. Okay.
Neither signified or marked that they fit the business organization role. And just for reference, the business organization isn't being employed by a business, it's being part of the chamber or building trades or something like that.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
What's the meta question I have is like, what's the right way for us to have this discussion? We're trying to figure out, so the possible outcomes are we don't want either candidate. We want one of the candidates to be taxpayer rep, but we don't want the other candidate, or we want one of the candidates to be the taxpayer rep and want to appoint the other at large in the consent calendar at the next meeting? Are those the three flavors of outcome for the, okay.
So I would recommend that what we do is trustees take a moment if they would like to advocate for a person and say why they are going to support a candidate or not, that they go ahead and make those comments, but then we move to a motion and we do this as our normal procedure, which is we make motions second and then vote on them. And if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, then, we can always amend it if someone decides that they're not happy with the motion, they'd rather support somebody else or not vote for it. And that would be kind of the way that we can get through this.
Great. So we've got the form factor of the three possible outputs. We've
Yeah.
got the mechanism of action
Yeah.
for deliberation.
There are other comments about any of the candidates that
I
people.
just have one more question about so at a minimum, this person has to be an active member in a taxpayer association for the next 3 years. Is that the minimum requirement for this role or?
Correct.
And an adult. I think, right? I think that's the only other requirement though. I don't think they have to be, is there a residency requirement? I don't even think there's a residency
No,
requirement. Yeah.
and they can't be an employee.
They can't be an employee of the school district. So, yeah. I don't believe there's a residency requirement. The statute's silent on
The
that.
statute's silent, but the bylaws, and I don't have them pulled up in front of me, but I believe the bylaws of the CBOC is either reside in or work in
Okay.
the boundaries of the school district.
I don't think that's an issue for either of these candidates here.
They're both Redwood City residents.
Yeah.
So they've been fully qualified on so they're both two fully qualified candidates in front of us.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And I will say one thing. I believe Alan Hansen is on the strategic alignment committee as well. So there's already engaged and has already shown engagement with the district. Is I believe here online tonight and has shown sort of.
An H is now in.
Okay, great. And it so has I've at least for out of the two candidates, it's one person that I've seen being engaged with the district, engaging already and being active in it.
Do we want to let Alan say a few words or not? It's your meeting.
Would trustees like to hear it, or do you feel like we could move on to a motion now?
It'd be good to hear if you have something to say.
Alan, would you like to make a 2-minute comment to the trustees?
Yes. Can you hear me, please?
We can. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the
Thank you.
spot, but thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak for a very brief time. I'm a longtime resident. My son's attended the school district. I am a active licensed CPA, and I think one of my biggest strengths is that I'm well versed in communicating accounting issues and challenges to non-accountants. So I welcome this opportunity to participate in this on this committee. So thank you for your consideration.
All right. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. To be fair to our candidates, I don't think the other person's online, right? Okay. So perfect. Are there more comments, or shall we move to making a motion?
Oh, I'm just as a meta point, I'm very glad that we have candidates who are qualified applying for this role so that we can go and fill it. I've been messaging with Alan. He seems very interested, very engaged. He seems to have very strong professional qualifications.
Is that a motion? I would like it to, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Have Alan Hansen as the taxpayer representative on the CBOC.
Okay. Perfect. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Sounds like it was unanimous.
Congratulations, Alan.
Thank you. We'll see you at the next CBOC meeting. And Rick, you'll follow up with the other.
We'll follow up with Mr. Haney to see if he would like to fill the other position. And if so, we'll bring him back for approval on consent.
Okay.
Next week.
Outstanding. Thank you. Great. We're on to board and superintendent reports. I asked Evelyn to extend the time this one because I know we've just attended the annual educators conference, and so I figured that there would be more information that trustees wanted to share. And so who would like to start with their board and superintendent report? Yes, and we'll start with the board report technically.
I can go. I attended a few different sessions. The first one I attended was on policy. A couple things that kind of came up in my mind when I was listening to that regarding our own district is I wasn't sure if parents and community members can find our policies very easily on our website. I am not able to. So just as more of a community engagement, knowing, I mean, I've had parents ask me, especially like with immigration and things like, what's our district policy? And I've sent them the policy myself, but I actually can't point to them directly where they're supposed to look. And then the other thing that they brought up was actually tracking efficacy of our policies. We review them, we talk about them. I think David made a good comment one time about tying them to some of our agenda items or kind of reminding people what's the associated policy. But just thinking about also once we roll out the policy, how do we actually track efficacy of any major changes to the policy? I know we did a good job rolling out the cell phone one, and we've heard good anecdotal information from that, but I don't know if there are things we want to track when we roll out some major changes. And then I attended 2 school finance sessions, and I walked away being very thankful for Rick and still realize I have a long learning path on school finances. And then the last session I attended was math. Similar to what Dr. Baker took away, I think, from the ELA session, they also had a 5-year runway for their little math experiment. And a couple things that that kind of really focused on why it worked was they had data cheerleaders on camp at every school site. So I mean, it was just something that I thought would be interesting. It was just, they kind of empowered one teacher at every school site to kind of be the data advocate, and just either gave them a little bit more training or they themselves kind of were interested in that space, just so that everybody on campus had a point person who they could go to if they had questions on how to look at data or if they were interested in data.
And Anna, that's our MPSS TOSAs. They fill that role at the school sites. It's sort of like the data.
It's like a data TOSA.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Tersa's do some of the data at
Yeah.
each of the sites.
Okay. And then the other thing was actually they kept harping on or focusing on community engagement. So something like, all our little wins, they broadcasted it a lot to the community. And so I think that's something we probably could also do a little better. Those are.
Thanks, Jen. Good learnings. Thanks for sharing. Anyone next? David Lee, go ahead.
And we're going through everything, right? Not just AEC.
Everything. Yeah, totally. This is the regular report, but I figured AEC will take up a good amount.
Yes. Outside of AEC, I'll put last. I was able to go to Clifford for a coffee with the principal, which is great. A lot of engagement from parents across the board. So well attended. Got to meet the new vice principal. Talked about the CAS scores and acknowledged, same here as like the strengths, lots of successes, which we should do, to Jen's point, as well as the areas for growth. And I think it was well received. But overall, good visit. Also had policy committee and look forward to another one tomorrow. I think we had as we're going through the superintendent search, so I think before the last meeting, we had another meeting on that. So that's moving forward. There was a San Mateo County School Board Association meeting earlier this week, which CSBA provided some legislative updates, which was informative. And I think, as I mentioned before, SMCSBA, we are also looking to be more proactive on the legislative front this year. So I and a couple others are leading the effort on really getting a sense of all the things we need. Obviously, funding is one of them, but there are other things across the county that we're all experiencing and that we want to make sure that the legislative hears. So that was part of the meeting as well. And then AEC had a few good sessions. One was about the state accountability. Lots of good things to hear in some ways. Mainly, we're not alone in a lot of our struggles. Funding is everyone, virtually everyone across the state is dealing with this, and there are efforts by CSBA at least to ensure that is among other things, reflected back to the legislature and other state entities so that everyone can be on the same page of, hey, like this actually really does matter. So I thought that was a helpful call to action kind of session. Also went to a school finance section, which was great. One of the big takeaways was combined and unified discipline of recognizing what we have. And there's a lot of ideas we can do, but to have the discipline of when someone says, we should do this, to also be able to step back for everyone else and say, okay, what does that mean that we are not doing then is the trade-off, because we just can't do everything. And then I also went to a session on onboarding superintendents. There's a lot of great, pretty tactical stuff that will probably be relevant for us soon.
Great, thanks, Cecilia. I know you were not at AUC, so, but yeah.
I wasn't. I also went to a San Mateo CSBA meeting on Monday. And one other thing I just want to just throw it out there for those of you. I am part of the Can Award committee, and so we eventually will need help from a lot more board members. So if you guys are interested, let me know, and then I can send you some information. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be all hands on deck. Because obviously, it's a big.
That is a big role that you've taken on to be part of that. So congratulations and thanks for doing it. David Weekly.
Cool. So for members of the public who are not school board members, once a year, the California School Board Association has an annual education conference. It rotates where it is. This year was in Sacramento, and this is a gathering of people from all the different school boards across California. And so there's, what was it, 2,000, 3,000 people there, something on that order. Just to talk about what works and what doesn't. One of the things that's definitely a takeaway is a deep sense of gratitude for our district, our staff, and the relationships that we have with each other, which are positive, cordial, and professional, which does not typify an awful lot of other school districts out there. So there's a lot to be grateful for in the team that we have here and to not take for granted, which I don't. So thank you. As the incoming board president, I went to the board president training workshop. That was super duper helpful to have a whole day set aside to meet with other people who had experience in the president role, as well as people like myself who are new to it. Just thinking about how we run a meeting well, refreshers on fun things like Robert's Rules of Order. We've obviously gotten to observe Mike doing it extremely well. So that was really helpful to have some time thinking about how we can continue to evolve our meetings to be even more effective as a team. That includes things like a clear focus on English literacy by end of third grade, more active inclusion of the Hispanic community in our board meetings. You're rocking it, Agustin. And even some fun things like visually communicating more consistently and clearly bilingually using tools like Nano Banana Pro, which is absurdly good at making explanation posters. And so that's been a really interesting new tool in the tool bag to help with understanding and communicating with the public fairly complicated things like school finance and budgets, which are really gnarly. So I think we're getting armed with a bunch of new tools for communicating, which is pretty powerful. Turns out that a bunch of other districts start their meetings with a student-led Pledge of Allegiance, which they generally describe as something that's pretty sweet, doesn't take very much time. You rotate which school sends a student with their family to go and do the pledge. And of course, they scatter back home after leading the pledge. But I thought that was just kind of something a little bit sweet and maybe something that we could think about doing. The fellow board members, board presidents that I talked to from other districts universally described that as like a wonderful, happy, fun way to start pretty much every meeting, and it doesn't really take a whole lot of time in terms of overhead. So that seems like something we might consider doing. A lot of other districts have made caps, usually about 10 minutes in terms of presentation length, to really focus the board's time on deliberation, back and forth between the board members. What do we like? What do we not like? What's going on? And that districts that focus on having earnest deliberation about student achievement outperform districts that don't. And the data on that is pretty clear too. And I've seen us start taking some great steps in this direction. Even tonight, we got big, beautiful decks full of rich information and then condensed it down to much shorter presentations. The hope is that it will net be less burdensome on staff, that they don't have to give hour-long presentations. They just have a lot of rich data and then kind of give an executive summary orally. But just universally, this was described as a great move. I didn't talk to anyone who was like, oh yeah, we had a presentation cap and it went terribly and we had to go back to like longer presentations because it just didn't work. To wit, a number of boards, and then this is actually technically part of Robert's Rules of Order, would receive information, on the agenda item. And then this was very interesting. They move in second to bring the item to the floor for deliberation. And so there's these two separate segments that happen where first there's a presenter, there's questions that are asked of the presenter, and then the item is moved and seconded, and at that point, deliberation begins among the board. Now, sometimes there's nothing to deliberate because it's just so obvious. Yeah, let's do this thing. So this is, like we shouldn't be obviously looking to make things take longer than they ought. That's silly. But I thought it was interesting to really focus on where in what is going on here does there need to be a conversation among the board. And then when that happens, that actually happens after the second. And that's a little bit different than just how we've been running things, which is generally when we're ready to vote, we move second vote, right? But again, Robert's Rules of Order say you move and second it to bring it to the floor to discuss, and then you go and you vote on it when you're ready to vote. So anyhow, just not saying we necessarily have to do that. We've been doing modified Robert's Rules of Order, but it was an interesting thing to think about in terms of like, when do we need to talk about things, really deliberate as a board? The comment on the website rings true. I think there's a lot more that we can do on comms there, and to publish a clear governance calendar. When are we going to talk about what? Just in plain English, right? Because it's obviously we can't have like 10-hour long board meetings and stuff. And if somebody suggests, hey, I think we should talk about XYZ topic, that doesn't mean it gets put in the next board meeting, but just having a mechanism for collecting what are all the different things that within some finite time period we should discuss, put them in the hopper, put them in a parking lot that we kind of actively maintain, stack rank, and then we make a best effort to go and fit those in as we can. Yeah. And then to publish, so people will know, well, when are you going to go and talk about X subject? It's like, well, that's in our April 7th meeting or whatever. Like, oh, good. Oftentimes that's all people need. They need to know that they're being taken seriously and the things that we should be talking about, we're talking about in some finite time. Mississippi came up quite a few times in terms of literacy discussions. And I may have had my mind changed on things like retention. As it turns out, the threat of retention in third grade was one of the components of the Mississippi plan that's proved radically effective. And so I think I may be tempted at some point for us to look for a study session for literacy in the K to 3 window to look at what works, what doesn't work, what things are we already doing, and that's awesome. Let's double down on. And what are some approaches that have been very successful in other areas as well. So just want to put that out there. Went to a couple different sessions on facilities and property, covering school closures. It turns out it's really important to reach out to the community early and often to engage them if that process is happening at some point. All sorts of interesting restrictions about what you can do with property that make it challenging. Lots of complex bits there. And on employee housing, pretty interesting. They apparently down in Mountain View, they overshot their build by a fair chunk. They were not doing a good job at regularly checking in with the folks who were going to be leasing their units, and they built too many. And they also had some interesting awkwardness about planning to build in a much beloved community park. And it turns out that the people who enjoyed that community park were not a fan of that, so they had to alter their plans. Yeah, so it was a good conference. It's really good for us board members to get some time apart to go and think about what we want to do, how we can make a positive impact on the district. And it was great to go undergo the president training. So yeah, it was a good conference.
Cool. Yeah, I last night I met with our CEF. It was nice. I hadn't realized they raised $850,000 last year, which I thought was pretty impressive because when I was on the board, we could never break out of 200 to 25. So that was a pretty big growth. I did go to the city council meeting on Monday. They're going to rethink how they're doing the Mills Act, and sort of looking at that. So that was there. And then, of course, AEC. One of the highlights was the Golden Bell. Congratulations to our mental health program. Like that was awesome to see it get recognized. And it's a testament to that. In pair with that, I went to something about they called it braiding. I think it was braiding funding between like your mental health program and your ELOP. And super interesting. Couple interesting facts. The state of California, of course, has a huge funding for ELOP plus a little bit more for expanded learning. And the presenter called it the largest in the universe. He doesn't have any proof to show that it's not the largest in the universe, but it's a good amount of money for expanded learning. So it's nice to see that we're doing that. The other one though that was upsetting, of course, was that mental health is the number one reason that children from age 0 to 17 are hospitalized. And I did not know that. That repeating a fact, I don't know if that's true. That's just what the presenter had said. So it is true. Yeah. And just how important, mental health is there. And so this one was really, they were both talking about the power of the expanded learning and also the power of mental health programs. And then it got into the, hey, if you shift time, maybe you can offer mental health through ELOP funding by doing it after school, which I know we're already doing and looking at like all the ways to get the funding back to be able to maintain these programs because every district has funded it originally with their one-time funds, and those are going away and they're all looking for creative ways to be able to continue this funding. So one that was, I don't know if we're doing, but there's a grant for wellness coaches. And what they were saying was that you probably have on your staff people that are doing the work of wellness coaches. And so you might be able to take them with a little bit of extra training, turn them into a wellness coach and have this grant be able to fund it for the work that they're already doing. So you're kind of supplanting that work with the grant there. So that might be, I don't know if that's there. Another interesting fact was math equity for multi-language learners. They were talking about adopting new curriculum and improving curriculum and how much that's like 40x more cost effective than almost any other intervention. They mentioned class size reductions as the 40x, but it's such a big effective thing to have the right curriculum in place and be able to get that in there. And so that was an interesting one. And then the last one that I'll touch on because it's relevant to what we're doing here. I went to on Friday morning, Natomas Unified talked about their Welcome Center, which we started at last year at the Duane campus, which is taking some of the services that the district offers, but at different sites or sort of maybe some at the district office, some, at different schools, and partner programs and sort of bringing them into one place so that it's easier for families to be able to navigate through what can be the complexities of the different groups at the school for being able to get through a task that they're just trying to do. For us, I think we're doing enrollment. Is that right? At our Welcome Center?
We have enrollment at the Welcome Center. We also have a grant now for a mental health specialist that's there to work with parents to determine if there are some needs that they have at this point in time so we can steer them in the right direction. And then there is the person that is similar to a receptionist but does a lot of the background work with the parents when they're coming in. Where are you from?
Yeah.
Where are you living? What supports do you need? And then we send them to the agencies to help them with those supports. Plus, if there is a community school, this person will explain what a community school is and what services you can receive at that school site. If you're going to be attending a school site that does not have a community school, it's explained that you can go to any school within the district and go to a community school center, the family center, and receive services if needed. Plus, we have the nurse that's housed there, and she's there several times a week.
Yeah, there's a real power that when you stop in to answer that, and then there's a question for the other person, and they're just right next door, and you can sort of get those things that can really streamline the experience of families having to navigate through, a lot of these processes. So it was neat there. Theirs is They do not have as many community schools at Natomas. I think they have two. I think two at their high school. And so the Welcome Center really fills that need there, whereas we are blessed to have 8 community schools, and that really expanded program there. But it's still interesting to hear about that. Yeah, that was kind of the stuff I learned from the Educator Conference. Do you have anything to share from AEC?
I think you've hit at least the ones I've gone to also. But the one of the ones that I felt was really interesting was where they had a former legislature along with an attorney and then along with a superintendent. And the legislature, the former legislator, I should say, spoke that when the LCAP was created, the LCAP was created not to be 100, 200, or 300 pages, but as I was telling David Weekly earlier, that when I wrote the first LCAP, it wasn't even 40 pages. It was to be a document that was to be where you were going to go in the areas of mathematics, language arts, and how you were going to get there. Not what is mandated right now. So CSBA, along with AXA, has gotten together to see if they can't get this changed. That means talking to legislatures, talking to the State Board of Education, who keeps putting on these mandates for additional pieces to be put on the LCAP. And a lot of us were superintendents there, just nodding our heads and saying, they don't listen. And it's true, they do not listen. Thank God ours is not. But I heard the superintendent next door to me say how many pages his was. And I go, what? And I go, who? You can just put it in a bookshelf. You're never going to look at it. So hopefully there is momentum with CSBA, AXA, and getting others involved to get this changed and to get it relooked at. The amount of bureaucracy that is put into this, it was never meant to be that way. And he said that, and he apologized, and people just said, well, you should get back in and start changing this. But he is helping both CSBA and AXA to move this forward, to move it forward. It was sad to hear, but it's true. So at least we're not the only ones that are feeling it. And then it trickles down to the county office of ed. No, you need to put this in here. But why? And the superintendent who was presenting, she was from Pittsburgh Unified, and she told the county, "I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. What are you going to do to me? Go to my board." And she didn't do it. And I went up and asked her, "What happened to you?" Nothing. So that was a great one. The other one was the one that I was talking about previously with the coaches and how they got to where they are right now, year 6. That needle has moved and those kids are moving. As long as they started out with them since, she said we were at kindergarten, but not since they started TK, as long as they've been with us since TK and moving forward, they are moving. And of course, you do have your students who have disabilities, but that's another criteria that you have to look at that'll be different.
Excellent. Thanks for those updates. Let's move on. We have no information items. So then we're on to section 12, correspondence. I don't know if anybody has anything that they want to share to put into the record or acknowledge. Okay, let's review our governance calendar. We have a schedule of future agenda items and a parking lot of suggested topics that could go onto that governance calendar. Does anyone have comments on questions or anything to change for? I know it was mentioned before about how valuable these can be. Okay. Time for reflection. Continuous improvement. Does anyone want, did you have something for the previous one, or are you jumping in here, or?
Previous one.
Okay, yeah, jump back, go back.
It'll just say the same thing as always, which is it'll be good to get a study session on reporting.
Okay. Is that, let's see, is that in there? Probably not yet. Not yet. Okay. Okay. And TBD, tenure, PIS, so there's a study session in the backlog. Yeah, it hasn't been scheduled yet. It's in the parking lot.
Yeah, I've got my own parking lot and I'm trying to figure out how to
Yeah.
stitch that in here.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, just to get clarification, you're speaking about the student growth data discussion, right? Is that the one?
Believe so. Is that the
Really just student outcomes reports generally.
Okay.
Basically, like all the things that we have set for our goals on the LCAP. What is the most productive way for us to report on that?
Okay. I think that study session that's listed in the parking lot was referring to your study session.
Perfect. I'll also note that there is an update on communications in the parking lot as well, so relevant to the policy. Okay, on to board trustee meeting reflection. Thoughts on how to improve the meeting? I think partially things went off the rails in a way that I don't think was intended, but perhaps we should consider how the impact of things could have come through. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'll start with the positives. The same thing is, I think we've mentioned before and has been reiterated today as well. I think the format of less time presenting, more time discussing I really appreciate it. I think it's leading to better discussion. On the deltas, yes, perhaps I think I've pontificated much. I'd like to do that less. I can probably be for myself to be more reflective in the what I'm communicating and how to make sure that it is clear that everything is supposed to be generative and not conflicting.
Yeah, thanks for that. I do want to acknowledge our presenters that did an amazing job of really getting to the heart of both what was on the slides and what wasn't on the slides. I thought that the two presentations were really well put together. I know Dr. Baker, you made some suggestions for how people put that together, but it really flowed, and they were dense and engaging and really I really appreciated the work that went into that. Hopefully it wasn't a ton of work. It was actually because it ended up reducing the time. I know probably the first time it was a lot of work to be able to get to it.
Because it was already
Yeah.
it was already done. And when I came in and said on Monday, let's shorten it. So it was work to get it done.
To get it short.
It was first go around.
Okay. Well, I super appreciate that part. And also having the richer pre-read that we could actually go through and pull that through.
Yeah, the combo of having like a large, rich pre-read and then a dense presentation and discussion versus narration of slides is fantastic. So like more of that. I think that's going in absolutely the right direction.
But for me also, with the large slides, if we don't need the narration, it's kind of more embedded in there. That would also just be really helpful. Then maybe we're not having to ask questions that are already kind of answered.
I mean, when it comes down to presentations, I really do appreciate all the effort that it's put into the presentations and how it's thoroughly explained and I do want to just bring out the maybe uncomfortable comments or whatever. I want to say on a personal level, but I think maybe as a board, I do want to say that we as board members have talked about how much we do appreciate all of you guys in cabinet. So I do want to say that you guys do have our support. And at times it might be uncomfortable situations, but please know that we could talk about it and we are here to help you. Again, the needle is moving and I want to keep on the positive note. So please know that we do care.
Yeah, thank you for that, Cecilia, for the reflection on that. Any other comments on this topic? Otherwise, we'll move on to the calendar. Note on Saturday, we have a long closed session. I'm sure everyone's aware of that.
Note it.
Next week is our organizational meeting, and that'll be it for the calendar year. And then let me see what else is listed here. I think that's about it. Wait, no, I'm still on the old item. It didn't. Yeah, I think those are the two. All right. Any other thoughts on the calendar? Okay. None at this time. All right, so then we are on to adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
And a second?
Second.
Would you like to deliberate? I'm kidding. All in favor? Aye.